Money Ki Baat, the genesis of money. Money Ki Baat and Desh Ki Sarkar Ki Baat, February 14, 2017. The genesis of money and the genesis of government as the issuer of money. I am G. Ramachandran Ramach. To my friends and to my associates, my email is indiagrow@gmail.com and my Twitter @ramachgramach. Humankind is awesome and intelligent. Humankind's three principal intelligent inventions in are government, money, and taxes. GMT. All three are indispensable institutions in again. And if you want to see where they stand, I got to say this. Latitudes and longitudes belong to a lower grid. GMT is way above latitudes and longitudes. Government, money, and taxes, that's the YouTube reference or link that you could use to go back to my video presented on February 6, 2017. In this hypothetical economy, there are four sectors. The primary sector, the wheat farmer. The manufacturing sector, the implement maker. The services sector, the school teacher. And the public goods sector, the government. In this hypothetical economy, there is no gold, they have no precious metal. In this hypothetical economy, everyone is creative, dynamic, and resourceful. I repeat, in this hypothetical economy, there's no gold, there's no precious metal, and this is therefore some kind of a pre-modern, innocent economy where its citizens have no idea of gold. You could also see this in this manner. This economy could be postmodern and intelligent, very intelligent. Its citizens know that gold has no relevance and no significance to their economy or their wealth or to their long-term economic and financial security. Therefore, they have discarded gold. The choice is wholly yours. The citizens here are wholly neutral to your views, prejudices, and wisdom. They have a life to live, they have a society to build, they enjoy life, they are very optimistic and are very purposeful. First, G for government. Government provides security, government enforces property rights. M for money. The farmer grows food, the manufacturer makes implements, the school teacher teaches. The government specializes in education, land records, patents, patrolling, water management, road safety, weather reports. To provide all these, it needs taxes. T for taxes, direct and indirect. M for money again. Everyone needs government and everyone needs food. But not everyone needs implements and not everyone has a school-going child. This society has given up barter since the school teacher does not need farm implements. The farmer, a graduate of, say, Govind Ballabh Pant University of Agriculture and Technology, does not have school-going children now. With barter, the creative and talented school teacher would go hungry even with a bountiful wheat crop in this economy. Let's consider the transactions, the needs, the buyers and the sellers, buyers in the rows and the sellers in the columns. The farmer is a buyer of manufacturer's output. He doesn't need teaching, she doesn't need teaching, and the government is an implicit service provider. The manufacturer needs the farmer, the manufacturer needs the teacher's services, and the government needs the government services implicitly. The teacher needs the farmer's output. The teacher does not need the implements. The teacher needs the services of the government. And of course, government needs the services of all, of the farmer, of the manufacturer, and of the teacher. M for money. Recall that this economy has given up barter. The society now needs something else to work with, but it doesn't know anything about gold. Or the society knows everything about gold, therefore it has discarded gold. This society is now ready to invent money. Necessity is the cause and the driver of invention. Consider the buyers and the sellers. The farmer buys, the manufacturer buys, the teacher buys, the government buys, and all of them sell. This is a four-party system where n equals 4. We're going to recall this number n equals 4 when we start developing the idea of money later. The payments and the receipts therefore are this. The farmer needs to pay W1 for the services of the manufacturer. The farmer needs to pay taxes T1. The manufacturer needs to pay F1 for the farmer's food, L1 for the lessons from the teacher, and T2 for the taxes. The teacher has to pay F2 for the food and taxes T3. Government has to pay for food, for implements, and for lessons P1, P2, P3. The method to settle P1, P2, and P3 are as follows. P1, G, the government promises to pay the farmer. P2, the government promises to pay the manufacturer. P3, the government promises to pay the teacher. This is the origin of the promissory note. The promissory note issued by government states the name of the beneficiary clearly. These are bespoke promissory notes, bilateral promises, since a society has no money and no gold. But unsurprisingly, the participants are undeterred. It's their great society. They are earnest pioneers. They continue. Now, the method to settle taxes T1, T2, and T3. T1, I promise to pay government, says the farmer. T2, I promise to pay government, says the manufacturer. T3, I promise to pay government, says the teacher. G is government. This is the origin of the customized promissory note. And you might think, what cheek these citizens have to write and sign a promissory note in favor of government. But unsurprisingly, they feel very happy, equal to government. They are unafraid. It's their government. Their cheek is driven by their trust in their government. Government is the invention of the citizens. Therefore, their government has a balanced budget. P1 plus P2 plus P3, the sum of government's expenses or expenditure, equals its sum of tax inflows T1 plus T2 plus T3. This is a balanced budget. Government has to pay for food, implements, and lessons. Government has to receive taxes from the farmer, the manufacturer, and the teacher. But individual payments may be unequal to the individual tax receipts. Though P1 plus P2 plus P3 equals T1 plus T2 plus T3, but it is possible that the payments to the teacher P3 is greater than the taxes from the teacher, P3 being greater than T3, probably because this government is investing big in education. P1 plus P2 plus P3 equals T1 plus T2 plus T3. The assumption that P3 is greater than T3, payouts to the teacher greater than taxes from the teacher, is a whopper. It's a lie on purpose. It's not a blooper. The case for issuance of money by government will remain as strong if P1 equals T1, P2 equals T2, and P3 equals T3. And if you may wish, consider this. If P1 equals T1, P2 equals T2, and P3 equals T3, the case for issuance of money by government gets strengthened tenfold. Consider each of the person's outflows and inflows. The teacher, outflows to farmer F2, outflows to government T3. Inflows to the teacher L1 from the manufacturer, P3 from the government. What about the manufacturer? Outflows F1 to farmer, L1 to teacher, and T2 to government, and the inflows to the manufacturer, W1 from the farmer and P2 from the government. And the farmer receives F1 from the manufacturer, F2 from the teacher, and P1 from the government, and the outflows are W1 to the manufacturer and T1 to government. And the government itself outflows P1, P2, and P3 to farmer, manufacturer, and teacher respectively, and inflows T1, T2, T3, taxes paid by the farmer, by the manufacturer, by the teacher respectively. The teacher, the manufacturer, the farmer, and the government have individual payments and receipts. All four are enthusiastically involved in growing their personal economies and their collective economy as a consequence. They depend on one another, they are different, they are specialists, therefore they have to work together. They convene a conference now in order to consider how their outflows and inflows can be settled. They call this the Gulmohar Jungle Conference. And wait a minute, since most of us make mistakes, I think they'll have several versions of it. Therefore, they change their mind and they call this the Gulmohar Jungle Conference 1 or GJC 1. And they go back to the payment schedule. The farmer has to make payments W1 and T1. The manufacturer has to make payments F1, L1, and T2. The teacher has to pay out F2 for food and T3 to the government as taxes, and the government has to pay out P1, P2, and P3. In this four-party system, N equals 4. So they have to consider settling all the relationships. They understand that there are 4C2 transactional relationships, combinations. 4C2, 4 factorial, that's 24 in the numerator, and then in the denominator, we have 4 minus 2 factorial multiplied by 2 factorial, and that makes it 4 in the denominator. Therefore, there are 6 transactional relationships. Here are the 4C2 transactional relationships. GF between government and the farmer, GM between government and the manufacturer, GT between government and the teacher, FM between the farmer and the manufacturer, FT between the farmer and the teacher, and finally MT between the manufacturer and the teacher. Then they very naively create 6 monetary units to represent the 6 transactional relationships. But they're very bold, very creative. They think that creating 6 monetary units, GF, GM, GT, FM, FT, and MT, would be very useful. The teacher is now first of the blocks. Since P3 is greater than T3, the teacher has a net receipt after offset from the government, and this is P3 minus T3 of GT units of money. GT is the currency and the units, number of units, P3 minus T3. The teacher also has a receipt from the manufacturer, which is L1 units of MT. The teacher goes to the farmer now to pay off F2 of FT. That's the money unit between the farmer and the teacher. The farmer tells the teacher there is a problem. The farmer tells the teacher there is a problem. The farmer is grudgingly willing to accept P3 minus T3 of the GT because everyone trusts government. There is some transferability when government is a counterparty in a bilateral relationship or a transaction. The farmer thinks there could be a school-going grandchild in the family later, therefore is willing to accept P3 minus T3. But about the L1, which reflects a bilateral contract between the manufacturer and the teacher, the farmer is wholly unwilling to accept L1 of MT because there is no explicit contract in this particular relationship between the manufacturer and the farmer in the MT monetary unit. It doesn't reflect the farmer's presence. Similarly, there are going to be other 3 problems, but what we now notice is everyone except government has a problem. It's not that the government has no problem at all, but it can cope. So let's list the remaining 3. The farmer is wholly unwilling to accept L1 of MT from the teacher. The manufacturer is wholly unwilling to accept anything of FT from the farmer. The teacher is wholly unwilling to accept anything of FM from the manufacturer. So if you're not present in a bilateral contract, you will not touch that money because it reflects somebody else's contractual relationship. The government therefore now convenes a conference. They call this the Gulmohar Jungle Conference 2. The Gulmohar Jungle Conference 2, GJC2. Together, they are now ready to discard the 4C2 monetary units. Together, they create one monetary unit, GC. At GJC2, they create GC. GC is a contract between government and the citizens. GC. It is a citizen-centric contract. It's also an all-purpose monetary unit. All that it says is, I promise to pay the citizen, signed by the government. Nothing more, nothing less. It says government promises to pay the citizen. Together, they discard the 6 monetary units. GF, GM, GT, FM, FM, and MT are replaced by one common money, GC. GC replaces all others, and one GC is one monetary unit owed by the government to the citizen. When citizen A pays citizen B, one GC is now owed by the government to citizen B. When GF, GM, and others get replaced by GC, everyone has one money to work with. One GC is one unit of value owed by the government to any citizen who holds it, any citizen. When that citizen returns one GC to the government's liability decreases by one GC. The citizens and their government could choose to create GC on metal, on paper, or digitally. GC is money issued by the government regardless of the medium on which this society chooses to create it. Money does not need digitalization. You could issue money digitally, you could issue it on paper, you could issue it on any metal. Such naivety, therefore, is unacceptable that money is going to be digitalized from paper money. This is not a Y2K problem. GC had no existence until now. It's our choice to create it, operate it, and account it, and choose the medium which is most convenient, reliable, trustworthy, secure, and inexpensive. Money does not need digitalization. Such a patronizing view, too, is very unacceptable. Money is a public good created by, operated by, and accounted by the government. Citizens pay taxes to the government for this regardless of the medium in which this society's money is created. We pay taxes. If the citizens and their government use coins and currency notes without a service fee or an ad valorem commission, they should continue to use digital money without a service fee or an ad valorem commission. Very clearly, digital money is one of 3 forms in which money can be issued by the government. There's no special fee we need to pay for it. In fact, to create, operate, and account a digital money system, government would spend much less money. The consequence of this exercise: the farmer is now willing to accept P3 minus T3 of GC from the teacher. Earlier, there was a bit of reluctance. The farmer is willing to accept L1 of GC from the teacher, which was earlier rejected. Similarly, the manufacturer is wholly willing to accept W1 of GC from the farmer, and the teacher will accept L1 of GC from the manufacturer. We now have created one money, one nation, one money, one economy. We now move on to an inference, an irrelevance, and an irreverence. The citizens and their government have no need for gold. GC is fiat money issued by government. Let this be money, and so it is. Money does not need gold. This horrendous snobbery that you need to have gold to create money is unacceptable, and so is the naivety. GC is fiat money issued by government. Say that again proudly. GC is fiat money issued by government. Money needs no asset backing. Citizens that trust their government will trust their fiat money. Therefore, money is an awesome magic. Therefore, money is a construct and it lacks any absoluteness. All value of money is endowed upon it by its own government and citizens. The anger and the contempt towards fiat money is caused by governments that print or create money without creating and supporting an economy that works. Sad. So, these critics think it's necessary to link the supply of GC to the reserves of gold. We can't blame them, but they are not very helpful. Money supply should not be a function of the government's debt burden and interest burden, sure, and no nation will be prosperous or wealthy by printing and creating money. No way. And what can paper do? It can't buy anything. Moreover, paper, ink, and electricity to run the printing presses at the so-called government printing press do not come free. We now are ready for the last part of day's work. Money supply is a function of economic activity. Here's an engineer's view. The spirit of Guindy prevails. Together, we will engineer a revolution, a digital money revolution in India. Nostalgia takes me back to my college canteen. In my canteen, masala dosa was priced at 60 paisa. We would buy a blue token at the cash counter. We would then walk to the kitchen counter. We would hand over the token there. The token would go back to the cash counter, but we would go back to our dining tables. We would get the masala dosa. We didn't have to take the token back to the cash counter. We walk away with the dosa, eat it, relish it, FLG, finger licking good. The canteen is a microcosm of an economy. The blue token is its money. The cash counter is its central bank. The kitchen is the economy's engine. The central bank needs to create, mold, print tokens to operate the single product economy. The question, how many blue tokens? There's no gold here, and it's very easy and cheap to create a token, maybe 10 paisa. But you can't be wrong. We need to now gather data to find out how many tokens we need. We don't need gold. We won't run after gold. An engineering college canteen after gold? Unthinkable. Industrial engineering had come of age then. We also knew that the gold standard had died on August 15, 1971. We also knew about the Indian economy, about its economic objectives, about inflation. Moreover, we were inspired by Krish Srikant's batting in the college and university matches. Now the data. The kitchen has a capacity to make 60 masala dosas an hour. The kitchen's capacity has been designed after understanding arrivals and departures using queuing theory. The data, each token takes 5 minutes for the round trip from the cash counter to the kitchen and then back to the cash counter from the kitchen. The second leg from the kitchen to the cash counter is made possible by an employee of the kitchen. Economic objective 1. There should be no slack in the kitchen. The kitchen should operate at its rated output of 60 masala dosas or 60 MDs per hour. Economic objective 2. There should be no waiting line at the cash counter. Economic objective 3. There should be no waiting line at the kitchen counter. It should be a very orderly, pleasant kitchen. So the answer here, since each token could support an output of 1 MD every 5 minutes, that's a round trip time, each token will support an output of 12 masala dosas every hour. 60 minutes would then have 12 5-minute components, and each 5-minute component would accommodate 1 round trip, and 1 round trip means 1 dosa delivered. So 1 token, 12 doses. With 5 tokens, you can support an economy with 60 doses. Answer is this. That's it. Goodbye gold. Welcome productivity. The College of Engineering Guindy canteen will have 5 tokens. But we have now proved that money supply is not a function of gold. Money supply is a function of economic activity. That's the engineer's view and proof. What about inflation? What about deflation? When do you have inflation? There would be inflation when too many tokens chase too few masala dosas. Any number of tokens above 5 will cause inflation. And about deflation, you would have a slack in the kitchen if you have tokens fewer than 5, say 4 or 3. So let's go on to do that now. If money supply were to be 6 tokens, this would place a demand for 72 masala dosas. But the kitchen delivers only 60, therefore there would be a waiting line at the kitchen counter. There could also be a black market. Some of us would then say, hey man, I'll pay you 10 paisa more, why don't you give me your dosa? That could cause inflation. So if an economy prints too many tokens, you will have inflation. And if you print too few tokens, you will have deflation. Consider 4 tokens. This money would trigger a demand for merely 48 doses, but the kitchen output is 60, therefore the offtake is 48 when the kitchen makes 60 MDs. There would be now a waiting line at the cash counter because 4 tokens and there they demand 5 tokens, therefore People may lose interest in doses, the demand for MDs could fall, there would be deflation. Less than 5, deflation; at 5, excellence; above 5, inflation. Let's return to the present. Imagine the economic consequences if some non trivial part of the total money supply, that is digital or digitized, were to remain outside the operational control of the Reserve Bank of India. Imagine, please imagine. The government should own and operate India's digital money. Thank you for your time. Thank you for watching. I'm G. Ramachandran. Ramach to my friends and to my associates, and my email is indiagrow@gmail.com, and you could tweet at ramachgram.